Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1139 of our daily content grind, and we have some breaking news that I think is a little bit more impactful than just a standard news roundup story, so we gotta cover it today as its own thing. So if you haven't heard, if you have not checked the websites, and if you're Twitter or preferably Blue Sky, which you can find the link to my Blue Sky in the description below, I would love to start using that instead of the hellscape that Twitter has become. If you've been checking any of these sites or, whatever, you might have noticed that there's a story going around that says that John Warden, who is the lead guy behind the Transformers brand at Hasbro, was fired. Oh, I'm sorry, corporate term, laid off. Or his job was made redundant. What corporate speak did they actually use to tell the man of 25 years of working for working on that brand, for Hasbro, and 10 years on the Transformer brand to go, you're fired? But no, it's kind of a big deal. He did make a statement. I'll read a little bit of it for you here. I've had the privilege of a lifetime to be part of this creative force at Hasbro. When I was a boy in the early 1980s, I was encouraged by my dad, an inner city public school art teacher, to learn about the industrial design. It wasn't until I saw Where the Toys Come From in 1984 on VHS cassette from my local library that I realized that the worlds of drawing, painting, sculpture, and mass production engineering collided into a fascinating miasma, resulting in the swivel-armed hero that I had in my hand. That next year, I would go on to write a letter for my 5th grade class to Ralph Schaefer, the mastermind of SVP, who, alongside the mighty James Groman, created the wacky Madball line in the nearby metro area of Cleveland, Ohio. To my surprise, he wrote back to me as I got a tour, the illustrations on Frisket hanging on the wall, originals like Groman himself, and the think tank of submersive designers. Essentially, he's going over his it's your usual like goodbye message of like, here's my story that has gone all the way. And you can tell how much of his life has been revolving around just the fascination of what makes a toy and everything that goes into actually making a toy that gets into your hands. And that is kind of incredible. Like, that's the kind of person you should want working at a toy company. Someone who has studied literally since they were a child and has been single focused on not just the toys themselves. Like, I'm focused on the toys themselves. This man was focused on how the toys happen. That's a huge distinction. And he has dedicated himself to that for a long, long time. It's one of those things where you're pretty certain like he should have been a career, he should have been a career employee at Hasbro. Like, he never should work anywhere else ever. But unfortunately, hopefully Mattel picks him up. Hopefully he does not leave the toy market in some form, because the guy is good at what he does, and he's been at this for a long, long time. Now, if this does seem weird to you, it's because we were talking about the man not long ago. In fact, as recently as April, it was announced that he had rejoined the Transformers brand. He went on to other brands for a while, but then he got brought back earlier this year, and really, like, seemed like he was ready to get right back into it, And so 6 months on the job, and he was canned. Now, let's get this straight. It's very, very unlikely that this is a result of Transformers 1's box office performance or the toy sale performance for things like Rise of the Beast and Transformers 1. All of that would have been done and in place and already down the production line long before he actually rejoined the team. Even the Generations line that he focused on so much, because he really is kind of the reason we have modern Generations lines the way we do. Even before then, like, the stuff that he was talking about and the stuff that he was preparing for is all stuff that would be down like 2 years down the line. I mean, we've already established what the next year's worth of Generation toys would be. So it's nothing like that, you know? It's not the stuff that's been coming out recently that would go, this is underperformed, better fire the guy. No, no, this is unusual because like all we know is he was really excited to continue on the brand, and we don't know exactly what he was planning or, you know, why he was seen as someone who needed to be let go. If you don't know John Warden, aside from, yeah, he's been with Hasbro for 25 years, but he's also been working on Transformers since Thrilling 30, going all the way back to projects like Skybite and Whirl, one of the characters he really liked. So one of the first projects he made sure that he covered was a brand new toy for Whirl. I believe Roadbuster was very high up on his list too. Basically, he had his hands in most Generations projects since then. Like what you see here, this is just the Titans Return line where he was involved in just about every toy that came out. This is just a small cross-section of all the toys he co-developed. We have a lot of really good toys that we owe this guy for. And because of this, you can see it in like the last few top 10s I have done as we look through the best toys of the decade every best toy of the year every single Tuesday on this channel. So you can see how many toys he's done and how many really good figures we got in that time. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows here. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a little bit and just point out that there is an opposite side to the fandom's response to John Warden and their opinions of him. That mostly comes down to the fact that the third decade of Transformers' existence really was dominated by Generation 1 characters. Outside of, you know, current cartoon and movie lines, etc., the Generation stuff, the stuff that was aimed for collectors, was almost entirely Generation 1 based, and it was all core Generation 1, never really stretching beyond the first 4 years. When it came to other generations like Beast Wars, Armada, you know, even the likes of Beast Machines, yes, they would get representation every now and then, but it was very few and far between. You know, we just got 1 or 2 characters at a time, and that was it, even for years at times. He really, really focused hard on G1, which is what led a lot of people to being exhausted of Generation 1 characters. So maybe not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to John Warden and the fandom's opinion on him, but the point is, the man put a lot into his time in Transformers. He recently did an interview where he was talking about his return. You know, this is like less than 3 months ago. Just talking about his return plans, you know, things that he was looking forward to, and you can tell he genuinely loves the brand. You can tell he is genuinely a Transformer guy, and that he was excited to get back to work on a brand he really loved. So what, I'm just curious, like, what happened? Why him of all people? It seems like such a mistake. You know, why did you take someone who's this passionate about the brand with this much experience and go, we don't need you anymore? Stupid. Frankly, it's a stupid decision from Hasbro. And frankly, what has been, you know, a few years worth of really stupid decisions from Hasbro. Okay? So this is not isolated. Hasbro has announced previously that they were planning to cut about 1,100 jobs total this year as a part of the corporate restructuring, cost-cutting measures. Part of that was hitting Wizards of the Coast as well. This was the bulk of it. You know, Hasbro has announced they have laid off less than 100 employees, with Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons team impacted. Now, we know that the D&D team has struggled. Wizards of the Coast have struggled. The last few years have seen introductions of things that just like scratch our heads, baffling. You know, like $1,000 booster packs for the anniversary that really didn't include anything terribly valuable in them, and just felt like they were ripping off customers. The glut of Magic product that has gone on. There is the to this date, complete flop that is D&D 5.5. As they continue to push this new brand of Dungeons and Dragons, fans are continuing to push back against it and just keep all their 5.0 material instead, me included. Which speaking of, and it also brings up like the OGL disaster, where they tried to revoke the open gaming license that they gave people 10 years ago, which would have cost, tens of thousands of writers and artists and game designers their jobs and livelihoods. One of the ones that was let go, that we know was let go, is a guy named Dixon Dubo, who's one of the people who put the brand back together and salvaged its PR after that entire disaster, that fiasco with OGL. So it's weird to me. It's weird to me why these people that to you and me would seem pivotal to not only lead the brand but save the brand seem to be the ones that they decided you're expendable. Which it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. It's very baffling is what it is. So we do know that there is a point to all of this, because there was another story that came out recently. So, exclusively at Toy Box, Hasbro has revealed organizational changes designed to cut speed to market time and allow design to value price from the start. Corporate jargon. So, what this basically means is, one, they're intent on getting the time it takes to develop a toy and get it out to retail. They're trying to get that reduced. They're trying to make it faster by from what it sounds like, about 3 or 4 months, so that things can get produced and out on out of the stores a lot faster than they do now. But the other one is to design things to have more value to them. Which is to say, they know the product is so expensive at this point that it's costing them sales, so they're going to try and reduce the cost of figures at retail. Now, this on paper would sound like exactly what we've been asking for a long time. Transformers themselves do feel very expensive for what you get, especially when you're dealing with things like Voyager Plus, where it's a $35 toy bulked out with accessories you didn't ask for, or character figures where like we can get away with charging $25 for a Bumblebee even though it's half the size of a normal deluxe because it's Bumblebee. We know these exorbitant things that have been happening lately in the brand. And there's a lot of people who would argue that yes, some of the stuff that's coming down the pipe is not worth the price they're asking. A lot of people are afraid of the upcoming the rumored Titan Star Convoy, because it is going to be released as a Titan, but whether or not it's going to see a price reduction, we don't know. We are still waiting on that, whether it's going to be, like a proper Titan, which would be ridiculous for that character, or if it's going to be like Commander Class Plus, which I think is a lot are expecting. And the fear is it's still going to be $200, even though it's way smaller. Things like that, they're trying to cut down. However, no, it sounds like on paper it's going to go back to the good old days. Remember when, a deluxe was $10, and when a brand new movie or cartoon came out, the full product line was available right at the start? Right as soon as you could leave the theater and then go to your Target or Walmart and get this really nice deluxe toy. You wouldn't have to be just left with like basic figures, like super basic, lower than deluxe figures. You wouldn't be left with a whole bunch of gimmicky figures with like flip change things and like toolings from like 10 years ago that they just recycled for the sake of getting product for the movie out. No, you had a full, rich, robust line that had fully functional and fully developed Transformers with full budget production behind them, readily available, and they'd be the major characters. And that was great. Whereas today, with Transformers 1, we have a bunch of really cheapo figures at the stores that rely on a whole bunch of gimmicks. A lot of them are recycled from previous toys. And some of the characters from the movie, some of the main characters won't even have Studio Series deluxes, proper toys, for another year. Elita 1 in Studio Series is due in September 2025, which is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Even if you account for, like, it's probably going to come out 2 months earlier. That's still ridiculous that I have to wait that long just to have the primary cast of 4 from the movie available together on a shelf. It's stupid. It's stupid. But really, like, when they talk about these things, you have to remember, they're not talking about reducing the price of how things are in the store. They're talking about reducing cost on the toys. And we've seen how that has gone. You know, gone are the days of, like, solid figures that feel, you know, nice and sturdy in your hands. Now, I do tend to like the current generation's product for what it is. I will completely acknowledge it ain't the best. It is not the best. You can see here on Hot Shot, and I do like this Hot Shot toy, but you can see the biceps are hollow. There's a lot of parts that are thinner than they used to be. The thighs are hollow. You know, they're mushroom pegged in. Things like that. That starts to get very frustrating. And we've seen that a lot. We've seen that a lot in modern Transformers. And the fear here is that in order to reduce cost at the store, they're going to have to be cheaper than this. That's my fear. See, I feel like with a lot of stuff at retail right now, the price has gone up just for the sake of going up. I don't think they necessarily need to charge what they charge for what we're getting out of Transformers these days. I don't think that tiny little thing that, you know, I don't think that thing we call a leader class toy needs to be $55 when it's barely bigger than a Voyager. So yeah, it's a worrying thing. It's a worrying thing because budget crunches have damaged this brand horribly in the past. If they're going to do it again, it's very scary. Later this week, potentially tomorrow, we'll be doing a video that's all about the big budget crunch of the 2010s that completely nerfed what Transformers Prime could have been and left the Generations toy line especially floundering for quite a while. We'll get into that. We'll get into that just so you can see, like, what this has done in the past and what another big budget crunch could do. But no, with all of this, this is, yet again, like I said before, this seems like a really stupid choice by Hasbro. And it comes down to the man up top. Chris Cox took over 3 years ago, and Hasbro in general has felt like it's been filled with really bad ideas ever since he took over. You know, we are still stuck with Paramount, who, judging by the last few Transformers movies, has done a terrible job promoting Transformers. We know from their streaming service, they've done a terrible job promoting the Transformers cartoon. So across the board, they have not treated this brand well in the recent years, and yet they're still making the movies, even as they continue to flop. That's down to the marketing, which is a Paramount thing. So yeah, absolutely to blame. You know, there's all the fiascos with Wizards of the Coast between Magic the Gathering's constant controversies, especially now with both Magic as well as Dungeons and Dragons trying to sneak AI generated stuff in. You know, and then, you know, Chris Cox being all about, you know, like putting AI in charge of D&D, by the way. It's depressing. It's depressing because it seems like ever since he took over, there really hasn't been a direction. You know, it just feels like it's just kind of coasting and doing whatever it did in the past, even though even the stuff that didn't work. And a lot of really weird, bad decisions have followed. Oh, and I'm going to show you this just to end off the video on something to keep you nice and angry at Chris here. So this is how much he pocketed last year. As a lot of these bad decisions were being made, as a lot of people are being upset with the direction of a lot of the brands, this goes for the brands like G.I. Joe, Marvel, and Star Wars as well, by the way. A lot of Hasbro brands are under similar scrutiny. And of course, yes, you Power Ranger fans, we know. We know what they've done to you and me. I just wanted to let you know that through all these really bad decisions and seemingly very poor leadership, Chris Cox pocketed $15 million, and more than half of it was in bonuses. Gotta love corporate America, right? You screw up over and over and over again, and you're financially rewarded. So I'm just going to leave you on that. Hasbro's got a lot of problems right now, and I'm genuinely concerned about the direction the brand is going in. And taking someone who loved the brand away from it like that is not going to do any favors. That is only going to hurt things in the long run. So that's John Warden. I wish him the best. He does not deserve to be laid off in the least. But unfortunately, that's corporate America. And that's the video for the day. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.